the kingdom can turn around. We're lighting up the night, shaking up the ground. Excuses and flames, yeah, we're breaking free. We'll be fire, this is our legacy.
Yo, yo.
Welcome to the One Big Fire. Hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Kinder.
Good afternoon, Mr. Albie Stasic. You know, the one thing that nobody's talking about that, you know, everybody talking about this real and Remax and this, the one thing that the real agents aren't talking about is if real is wrong, they cannot afford not to make this work with Remax. They cannot afford not to make it work. Where's their focus now? Their focus is not on every agent they already got. Their focus is on making sure we keep the how do we make these Remax agents happy? How do we make these Remax brokers happy? And if you shift your focus away from the one thing that is the nucleus of what you got, I don't know how that plays out.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how it plays. It could be a big win, dude. I mean, first of all, kudos to them for having the cojones to go out and buy a declining asset that maybe there's some opportunity in. You know, for that, hats off. You know, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be cheering if I was a real agent right now. I mean, like, hey, what? We can't recruit any of them either. Oh, we don't get no revenue share. Oh, all right. Well, all right then. Yay, we're bigger. We're bigger. I don't know, man. You know, I think it comes back to you and I say the same thing. We probably posted the same thing. If it ain't helping agents sell more houses, then it don't even matter. Like, who cares? You know?
Yeah. My question, there's so many questions that I feel are, you know, I'm not seeing being asked out there. And one of them that I put on my post, and I think you did the same thing on yours, is, you know, how is this going to help Remax agents or real agents sell another 2 to 3 homes a year, or I'm sorry, per month?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, how is that going to move the needle, which is the only thing that's going to move the needle from income standpoint? That's my first question. So let's touch on that in a minute. Let's also touch on, if you were a Remax broker, you probably already heard rumblings of this. I'm assuming it wasn't a big surprise. Some of them, they woke up to a surprise. But what if you were a Remax broker and your plan was, man, the only reason I'm asking this question is I was just on a call with Gaydosh, and he had a Remax broker, and the guy, it was coming up in the next couple of months. His franchise was up, and he was like, I think I might have someone that's going to buy this from me. Now, you know, I might move it over to EXP, but I think I might have someone, a buyer for this franchise. What happens to that deal? I don't know. And then, you know, of course, there's the minutia and everything, but at the end of the day, I haven't been able to see, you know, the number one answer that I'm seeing is nothing's going to change. Everything's business as usual. Nothing's changing. So,
well,
I want, you know,
it's an interesting take because, you know, again, just my perspective of, okay, I've been on several calls with people that are in that look period, and they're not going to renew because they're not happy with their Remax. Well, think about it this way. I think if you go from 2020 to 2025, U.S. Remax agent count is down from 63,000 to 40-something thousand, 20-something% drop in agent count. And if you're a Remax broker owner, what does agent count mean? Well, agent count, if you get paid office rent, is, you know, you're kind of a landlord. So that model was based upon head count. And if you're losing head count, if I'm going to the Remax National Convention, I want to hear, what are y'all doing about it? How are you helping me get more agents? And so you just adopted that. If you're real, you just bought that. So that's one thing you got to solve. Just one piece you got to solve. And I don't know how they solve that. You know, what are you going to do to help the Remax brand? Because they're separate, right? They're separate. Nothing changes. So if nothing changes, how are you going to deal with these conversations that come renewal time? That's this cash flow that you just bought and you've got some debt alongside.
Yeah.
How are you going to stop the bleeding if nothing is changing? And you better be right. You better be right. You better be able to turn them.
I want you to talk about, before we went live, you made a really cool analogy about, like, okay, you got two companies, now they're in one. And what happened with that is they merged their debt as well, because you got debt with Real, you got debt with Remax. I don't know if we can make the assumption that debt has to be eventually paid back, but wouldn't I mean, I'm assuming that you either work it into your model that you're going to continue paying the interest on it, or you're going to try to pay it off. One of the two, I suppose. But
or you die,
or you die.
The companies die. It does happen,
right?
So if you're the CEO of this new enterprise, you got a plan to turn a profit. You got to answer to a board. You're a publicly traded company. You go in there and you say, man, we've done it all. Here's what we're doing next. And we're not, and it's not profitable. Then what are you going to do to become profitable? Well, what are my options? Well, my options are to do exactly what the government does when it spends money recklessly. They tax somebody, and somebody gets taxed, and that's going to be the agent. The agent at Real, they gambled with their money to do this deal, and if it don't work out, they'll have to come back to them to pay it off. And that's just, it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just understanding how the world works. If they're not gonna just die, they're gonna try to fix it, and they'll try to fix it by taxation. And in this scenario, taxation will be the agents at Real will get to pay for it in some way, shape, or form. The agents at Remax will get to pay for it in some way, shape, or form, or they'll both die. And it's probably unlikely that they'll both die. This is just probably going to be a new tax that you didn't know was coming. So if it doesn't work, if it works out and somehow it's way better, and every Remax broker and every Remax agent says, man, this is the best thing that ever happened to us, and they grow, hey, you're a genius. Good job. But
yeah. Well, when you're putting it that way, then the assumption in this move should be that this is going to be a great way to recruit more agents to the entire entity. If that wasn't, a potential outcome, or at least the goal, then this was the wrong move.
Right.
Well, I would have to imagine that one of the assumptions is we combine this, we're gonna be able to recruit even more agents, stronger agents, productive agents, which Remax has always touted they have the most productive agents because, the old model, the original Remax model was mine. When I was a Remax agent, I had the option of going on a split or paying $1,297 a month for the desk fee, and I keep not 100%, 95%. I chose to go with that model, and at the time it was 2007, and I didn't have the smarts or insight to know that it was the beginning of a collapse that was about to happen. So all my Remax fees went on a credit card.
Yeah.
And I went into debt. And when you have debt, I don't care if it's company debt, you have options. You can either just keep the debt even and not go into deeper debt, and you're just going to make that payment every month, right? That's option one.
Yeah.
Option two is the debt keeps growing, okay, because you got no money to pay it down. Or option three is I have a plan to pay it down. That money's got to have to come from somewhere.
Yep.
And it can come from the agents and tax, or it can come from ancillary services, mortgage, title, insurance. I'm sure there's betting on. I think the probably the biggest misstep every brokerage makes is thinking that they can control the agent's ancillary service choices. Agents are in control. They manage the customer experience. The brand is useless. Evidence of that is, I use the analogy. If I show you a McDonald's logo and a Ruth's Chris logo, you could tell me instantly the difference between the two. If I showed you a Remax sign, a Keller Williams sign, an EXP sign, and a Real sign, and you ask the consumer what's the difference, they're going to be like, I don't know, they're all real estate companies, because there's no difference in how the customer experience is managed. Fundamentally, it's the only industry I know of that's like that. So the agent is the brand. The agent is the brand, not the balloons. You could put giraffes or donkeys or anything you want on the sign, polka dots, and the agent is the brand. So it's an interesting dichotomy. Yeah. So from an agent's perspective, if you're a Remax agent, you woke up and all of a sudden you see this news. I'm sure the first emotion, most of the thing is, oh shit, fear. When they let this settle in, they go to the 1 o'clock powwow that they all had, that I haven't seen any, but I have to imagine one of the main themes is nothing's going to change, because that's what I keep seeing all over social media. Nothing's going to change. Business as usual. And this might sound a little harsh, Jay, but like, how can you not change?
You have to,
You
like, I can't.
you got to fill the hole so that the ship
You got to assume. Well, here's the assumption, and again, I could be wrong here, but if you're either at Remax and you're really happy, or you're at Remax and you're like, man, they don't do nothing for me. I don't know what the sentiment is. If you talk to every Remax agent, they probably are happy. They're just doing their own thing. They're independent contractors building their own businesses. Y'all stay out of my way. Let me do my thing. That's probably most Remax agents, I would think. I mean, that company can do whatever it wants as long as they stay out of my way. That's how I feel about, a brokerage. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, let me be an entrepreneur. I built my business. You didn't. So let me do my thing. And I'll pay my tax because I know what it is. It's this rent, and I'll pay for that. And I know what it is. Now you tell me something's changing. Now I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm not on board with that change. So you got to kind of tell them nothing's changing, because they don't like change. But at the same time, there's another subset of agents that are like, man, we can sure use some help from y'all from time to time. What are we paying y'all 5% for? There's going to be a certain percentage of them that would like to see something beneficial. And you got to have a story for that. So what is it? Nothing changes, or it's only getting better?
I don't know, man. They're going to have to, there's going to have to be a spin that it's going to get better.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your take on
if agent count has dropped 20 something percent in the US in the last 5 years, which that's a pretty big number. I mean, then you have to assume that something's broken somewhere, and that for the most part, we could be doing better at making agents happy. So there's some kind of change that would be acceptable.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, and this is the question I posed to Remax brokers. Okay. And I actually said this in one of my comments that I was just trying to pull up here. What is it going to look like in 3 years? I know I keep hearing nothing's going to change, but assuming that's true, okay, in 3 years from now, what will the Remax model look like from a franchise broker owner model down to the agent level? Offices, all the franchise agreements, the number of agents, which has to go up, otherwise it's going to continue to bleed. Is it going to start to go north, or how is this going to make selling franchise? What about the guys that are out there
selling a different story? You behind that curtain, you're saying, hey, here's what we're doing. Right? Like, yeah, that's a different kind. If you're a Remax broker owner, I want to hear something. I want to hear, okay, what's the plan, y'all? Like, y'all got a plan. Surely y'all got a plan. Like, yeah, like it ain't, so essentially from the top, what's coming down from the top is, here's what you tell your agents. Tell them nothing's going to change, but here's what we're really going to do. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and it's going to be great. And then that's going to ultimately be, does that cost the agent more money or no? No. It costs, they got to pay for that. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to have some that like that and some that don't. And it's either going to cause a certain percentage of them staying, certain percentage of them go. I don't know. I mean, it's a hoop, but the biggest mind F of all of it is, we don't know what anything's going to look like in 3 years. So, I mean, it might be the most brilliant move ever. I have no idea. Nobody knows.
Yeah. Well, I would be.
You're not going to listen. All the agents that are at Remax right now, they're at Remax because they didn't want to be at Real. You ain't going to convince them to go to Real. You're not going to. That's. You're not going to force them. You might get some of them, but you're going to lose a bunch of them. So you can't do that. So you got to run them separate. And maybe that's it. Maybe this is your 95% option. That doesn't, but even still, do the math. If you do 30, the 95% deal only makes sense up to about 35 transactions, and then you're paying more to be at Remax than you are to be at Real, or whatever the number is, 20 something, whatever it is. But you didn't get them. You didn't convince them that it was better to be at Real. So you think you're going to convince them now that by forcing them? I don't know. That sounds risky. That sounds like losing some agents. I don't know. It's a ballsy move, man.
Yeah. Well, what are the Remax broker owners right now that bought their franchise either directly from Remax or they bought 7 offices, like what happened with my Remax franchise that I was a part of, where someone came in and bought 7 Remax offices from my old broker owners. What are they? What does this do to their game plan? Because I don't think they're going to find a buyer that's going to go buy their 7 offices or even their 1 office at this point. They're kind of like, all right, that chip is off the table right now. So what chips do I got left to play with here? Okay, I can recruit more agents. Good luck with that. How are you?
Not if nothing changes.
Because now if nothing changes, now they're looking at like, well, wait, didn't you just get bought by Real? I mean, if anything, it's going to have the eyes looking over it. Okay, well, if Real just bought you, maybe we should be looking at that. Everything points to it's going to be harder to recruit to the Remax brand, and as an overall idea. And so that's 2 strikes. I mean, I think that they kind of cornered him in like, hey, your best bet here is to just transfer this franchise. We'll sign we'll sign off on it. If you want to sign off and make a easy transition to transfer these entire franchises, as long as both agree to cut it into Real. But I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah. So Bryant Milton just made a good comment. This was inevitable. Shocked it was Real and not EXP. Our old Remax office is frantically trying to spin. Nothing changes, or if it does, it will be better. For agents, that means nothing. On the world stage, it does. And so, yeah, there's definitely 2 conversations here. From a company business, this isn't better for the agents at Real or the agents at Remax. Like, I don't think nobody. I haven't seen anybody lay out anything that says, "Hey, good everybody at Real. Here's how y'all are gonna win bigger." Well, there's nothing for the Real agents in this deal, and nothing, nada. Only the fact that. And to be honest, I'm kind of shocked that we weren't maybe brought to the table or invited to the table or in that conversation, but I'm really glad we didn't buy them. So, because I'd rather recruit them anyway. So, let's stay on the sidelines and let somebody else buy all this bad debt, and then we'll just recruit them all. And I mean, I'd much rather that deal. I would be a little nervous if we bought them. I'd be like, all right, how much do we pay? All right, well, how we gonna pay for that? I'd be like, okay, like, that we can get some of them, but we ain't gonna get all of them. I mean, that's just the truth. It's really fascinating, because you got to play both sides. You got to play, make my agents happy at Real, make these Remax agents happy, make these broker owners happy. And this is one of those things that it's either the undisciplined pursuit of more. Now, the part about it being inevitable, I think is absolute. I think that's absolutely true. These companies that are not profitable and legacy models that are declining have to pivot and do something, or they die. And these are big brands that have been around a long time. There's no reason for them to die, but their models are broken. These franchise models are broken. So there's change that needs to happen, and you can't just write it down to 0. So, consolidation is a natural move. And these legacy franchise models are getting scooped up left and right. We see it everywhere. So yeah, I think it probably was inevitable they had to do something. And what were they going to do? They couldn't fix it with the model, so they fixed it by an acquisition of them. But did they really fix anything? Yeah, I don't know.
Susie says they show it's truly not about the agents first, in my opinion. And right. I think that probably is one of the thoughts running through a lot of Remax's agent, maybe Real too. I mean, Real agents are excited because they just bought something. It's like, hey man, what came in Amazon today? Go to the front porch, look and see the box. What did I get? Oh, we got Remax.
Right.
I don't know what their spreadsheet.
Well, yeah, if you're, this is the same thing a Compass agent had to feel like, right? But it's because this is the interesting spin. The Compass agent didn't wake up the next day and make a bunch of posts about how they're going to win more because they bought Realogy. They, you know what I'm saying? Because they have no skin in the game. They're not recruiting agents or anything else. Later, it's like we didn't hear a peep out of a Compass agent from that. You know what I'm saying? Only a little concern. You know, I don't know how that, you know, I don't know. I'm out here selling houses, man. Like, I don't know what the hell the company over here doing. Now, I don't trust Compass as far as I can throw, you know, a boulder, but, you know, they're not agent centric. Go listen to the, you know, their public earnings calls for the last 5 years. You know, so you just over here selling real estate, you'd be like, I'm out here selling houses. Well, I'm doing what I do. I'm building my business. Y'all, the company's doing whatever the company's doing. And that's how most people treat it. But when someone like EXP or Real does something, you know, all of a sudden the agent chatter gets going, right? Like, oh yeah, because it's better over here. We bought Remax. Okay. How's that going to help me sell another house? I don't know. That ain't helping you. How you going to sell another house? Because Remax, y'all bought Remax. You ain't going to sell another house. So, all right. So, it's interesting. It's fun to watch, man. I feel like we get a good show this year, man. A lot of good fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So I was a Remax agent, as you know, for a while, and I can speak to the culture, and obviously that's individual. Like, you know, we've heard it time and time again. People join people, not companies. That's partly true. It's not 100% true. But for the most part, especially with your legacy brands, I believe that people are joining that broker, that leader, the office manager they liked or whatever. Like, that's what originally got them. They built a relationship, some trust, and then they joined the brokerage. Of course, the economics of it matter.
Well,
right.
Part of it. I mean, let me tell you what I used to think about Remax, because I used to have to compete against one of the top 10 Remax teams in the world, and they had a billboard on Rogers Lane, Remax #1, you know, and I mean, they had a little swagger, you know, they had a lot of the top agents, if not most of them. And that was their stance. That was who they were. That's what they represented. And I hated them because they were largely the top producing agents for Remax, and they had 40 or 50% market share. Move to today, and you've got all these new models, the EXPs of the world, and everything coming along, and people are doing the math, and they're like, that 5% is costing me money. Like, I could be over here, and I could be making revenue share, and there's, you know, you're losing people now. I feel like Remax changed to kind of, instead of being like you're wearing the balloons. Okay, I wear the balloons because balloons are #1. You know, now you can't say that. So, you know, I'm wearing the balloons because I'm a clown. You know, you're like, what am I wearing the balloons for? I don't know. We are not #1 anymore. So I'm wearing the balloons until somebody shows me something better to put on my sweater. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
But the culture thing is a big deal. And you're talking about two completely different cultures. The culture I was part of, and I'm not like slamming on Remax's culture here. I just can speak to my own, you know, experience. We had arguably, I would say, the best broker owner that I ever worked for was Dennis and Mary Lou Steed, my broker owners at Crossroads. They were great. They were just, you know, very servant leaders. They ran it the right way, very disciplined in how they spent money, this and that. And that's why they grew to, you know, the #1, at least in Northeast Ohio, 7 offices, this and that. But the culture was a dog eat dog.
Yeah.
Inside the office, it was every man for themselves, every 100%. Woman for themselves. It was not what you saw, for instance, at like Keller Williams.
Yeah.
Keller Williams nailed culture, I felt. Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm talking about like early 2000s. Now you got Real. And I've never been at Real, but from our friends who were at Real and even the EXP, the culture was one of my concerns. I'm like, how can you have good culture if there isn't an office, right? What I found was that was actually opposite. We've created the most dynamic, everyone sharing everything. And look, I know that happens here at EXP. I'm sure that it's a similar culture at Real. Like, here's my playbook, you know, do this, do that, whatever, right? But that was not the case, I can tell you, at Remax.
Heck no.
One all for one for all. Frank, he was right. It was always about the balloon.
Yeah.
You know,
it was until I mean, and I think maybe there's probably you know, the majority of people that are still at Remax probably are still balloons, you know, all big Remax, but you don't have that position in the industry as that #1 And so, and then what happens is, man, y'all just hired these 3 brand new knuckleheads. Like, I thought this was where the best of the best were, and that's what it used to be. And now you got anybody who can fog a mirror coming here. Now we're just like Coldwell Banker and everybody else. Like, what makes us different? So that culture starts to shift over time, because, man, we used to be, even though it was dog eat dog, at least, you were running with runners. You didn't leave your appointment book on your desk. You know what I'm saying? That shit went. So you lock the door when you leave your office.
Yeah.
I remember going over Remax one day, and they were getting into an argument. They were 2 agents at Remax going on the same listing appointment, and they were bitching about back and forth. I was like, yeah, man, I kind of like this over here. Like, y'all are getting after it. But they were, there wasn't no sharing nothing, right? But I think that somewhere along the way, whether it's competition or whatever, Remax lost its identity and started to be, well, we got to get agent count up. So you can come on over here. We'll help you get your license and get you started. Now you've got all your A players going, what are we doing? And that's a problem. And so that feels like that's where something went wrong at Remax. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. If you're a Remax, I mean, I feel like I've seen from the outside.
I'd love to hear from them too. The thing that I've been thinking about with this is like Anywhere. Okay, you were with Coldwell Banker. I was with Century 21 at one time. The Anywhere brand is just a brand, and it's not a brand that anyone knows. No one's like, hey, I think I want to call an Anywhere agent. It's not really even a brand. It's a conglomerate of brands. And I think what they just created, if they're going to leave the brands the same, if everything that they're saying on social media right now, that nothing's going to change, Remax Balloon's not going to change, Real's not going to change. Now you have this Real Max, or whatever they're going to call it, this conglomerate. Like, there isn't a culture that exists with Anywhere.
No.
Because it's a conglomerate of all these different cultures. The culture with Coldwell Banker is different than than Century 21, than ERA. Can you believe there's still ERAs out there? Sorry,
I know, right?
It's crazy. There's still ERA offices. And then you got Corcoran. I bet you the Corcoran culture is completely different. So maybe there isn't going to be this cross-contamination of cultures or whatever, but something has to change. At least you had Real over the last few years have made a big run up to 33,000 agents. And it feels like those agents love being at Real, at least the ones that aren't coming back over to us, which is about 9 a day right now. Okay. But aside from the 9 a day that are coming back, the ones that are there love it. The ones we talk about, they love it, right? But Remax, it feels like a lot of them, at least the legacy agents that have been there for a long time, yeah, they're happy because it's what they're used to. I mean, when I went on listing appointments, I would bring that balloon like, hey, you're listing with the best of the best. I leveraged the brand on some listing appointments.
Yep.
How are you going to do that now? I don't see how there's going to be an advantage. So I don't see a competitive advantage in that sense. And when you're talking about agents that, you can't depend on the new there is going to be no new generation of Remax agents at this point. It's the legacy people who are here. I don't see another 10,000 joining in the next couple of years, the Remax brand. So if they're not going to grow, I mean, my assumption is that they're not going to grow an agent count. I could be 100% wrong, but I just don't see that. I don't see them selling franchises, and the current brokers are going to be struggling to recruit agents. And by the way, Remax has a quota. I don't know how much they're strict to that quota, but there's a quota. If you weren't, recruiting X amount of agents to your franchise, you get dinged. You get, a nasty lettergram from Dave, Uncle Dave, saying, hey, what are you doing? What's going to happen with that? Well, if they're not going to grow, they're going to continue to slide south. And now the question becomes, where are they going to go? Well, they're going to look at Real, because they're being told, this is where it's, but they're going to be looking at a lot of other brands. They're going to be looking at EXP. They're going to be looking at Compass. Like, okay, this big change. Yeah. I was already thinking about it.
Yeah.
What do I do?
You're certainly going to you certainly woke up some people to look, and we don't have to go back very far to see an example of this. The playbook here, Compass wrote the playbook. they said, all right, we'll buy all these brands. We're not going to make them Compass. We're going to try to get them to adopt our tech. I mean, that's obviously the play here. So, this resin technology is got to be, it better be the best. It better be good. Because that's what you're trying to, that's the only thing that you're trying to do is get users and collect data. And that has to be the part of the play, I would think.
Well, there's a play out there. We don't know it.
Hey, listen, man, I like to gamble, but man, I ain't putting 500 million on it. Hey, put this one in Polymarket. Whoever puts these bets in Polymarket, throw this in there. I want to bet on this one.
That'll be fun.
It honestly, I mean, it honestly could go either way, but it regardless, all of this chatter and all this stuff we're talking about, wherever you're at, if you're at Remax, I don't think that anything is going to help. Anything that's being done here is going to actually help you sell any more real estate. You're on your own. You're building your own business. You're building your own brand. Just be at the place that you want to be, right? Like, be at the place that allows you to be the entrepreneur you want to be. And that's why we're all here at EXP. Like, so they let us be entrepreneurs. And I love that about it. And I feel like that's probably what most people at Remax loved about Remax was, man, they don't mess with me. They let me do my thing, and I think that's respectable. But if that's now going to change, I'm now like, okay, well, where's the next best place? Where are all the top producing agents going? Where do they live?
Yeah.
Well, take a look at the top 100 folks. They're all at EXP now. And so there's a reason for that. But hey, listen, I'm biased, obviously, but yeah, we're having fun over here.
Yeah. So I break Remax brokers that I've met and even been a part of into two camps. You got your small broker where the broker's still in production because they have to be, because if they're not selling houses, those office doors are going to get locked and closed quickly. Then you have the other camp, the recruiting camp. These are brokers who are their main thing they wake up every day thinking about is, how do I recruit more agents to my brokerage? Why? Because if they stop recruiting, and every brokerage is going to have attrition, they're not going to be able to support the agents that are trusting to join them, because if there's no money to invest into the company, who's going to suffer? The agents, right? So there's two perspectives, two different, I think, just camps when it comes to a broker owner with Remax. You got your recruiter model and your production broker owner. And I think they're looking at things differently. I think that the recruiting people are in the most amount of trouble. The recruiting, the one that's got 7 offices, that's got maybe 200-300 agents spread out among 7 offices.
Oh, geez.
By the way, the 7 offices that are empty when you walk.
Yeah. You're already scratching your head about that renewal.
Anybody? Why are the lights off at 2:00 in the afternoon? I don't understand. There's that. Those I feel the most sorry for, and will pray the most for the ones that are in that recruiting model, because good luck.
Yeah, your exit strategy just got a couple
of my friends that still own a Remax right now, they're still in production selling their tail off right now, which they have no other option to do that because they're not recruiting. Those I think are going to be okay for a minute, because they're not depending on their agent count to pay their bills. They're out hustling listings, still selling buyers, still opening up doors. And I'm not saying there's nothing right or wrong about either way. I think that the brokers that are out there doing that, maybe they won't admit it, but the reason that they're selling is because it's hard to recruit to Remax right now. And if it wasn't hard and they had a good value proposition, they'd have 300 agents and they'd have their weekends off. So it's a different take, I think, based upon how they decided to grow their business model as a Remax franchise. But I know the ones we're talking to, both camps are in trouble. It's just a matter of they're just in a different pickle. I think the ones that are making appointments with their counselors and their psychiatrists right now are the ones in the recruiting model. Imagine
this. Imagine that EXP just bought Remax, and we're telling them, this resin technology is essentially like my EXP, and we're telling them my EXP is going to save you. like That's not gonna work. Like you what do you mean you got a dashboard with all of the production? I already got one of those. Like I don't that how you helping me? No. But we control it. that's I mean, that's essentially that's all it is, right? I mean, it doesn't do anything any different. It's just one centralized place. Real owns it and controls it. And maybe there's transaction management. If I'm an agent, I'll be like, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm over here using Dotloop and I got all my stuff built out. I got my own AI. I don't need y'all. I don't want to be locked in with golden handcuffs to your technology. That's what smart agents would do. I mean, I would want to use that less and less and less instead of be dependent on it. But that's probably not most agents, I guess. Yeah. I don't know that that's going to be enough to get them to do it.
Yeah. Vince says, I have a question. Is it a breach of contract, a merger like this? I wonder what their franchise agreement reads. Yeah. I don't think that it interrupts the franchise agreement. Otherwise, Uncle Dave would have a lot of lawsuits, on his hands right now. Did you know something which was crazy? Is that I'm not going to mention the names except one name, but someone that you and I know very well. In fact, you introduced me to him back in 2011 or 12. He just had lunch with Gary Keller, who's recruiting him to Keller Williams. So Gary Keller is still out recruiting. And the value proposition, you get personally coached by Gary Keller. He just sold the majority of Keller Williams, right? Was it last year?
You know what that tells me? That tells me that deal had a number tied to it. And if he don't hit that number, that deal changes.
The tail.
Yeah, he said, hey, listen, you need to have X number of top producing agents here. If we lose all the top producers, this whole deal goes to SHIT. Gary, you better make sure we have X number of agents doing this much in production. And be like, yeah, man, if you come over to Keller Williams, I'll coach you for free. Like, that has to be the deal. That's just not been publicly made public.
I just thought that was fascinating.
There's nothing on the planet that would make any sense except there's the deal, the devil's in the details, and follow the money, y'all. Like, okay, Gary's out personally coaching people and recruiting. Why would you do that? Because there's a financial reason that you have to do that, or something changes in the deal. That's the only reason. That drastic of a change, that's crazy. There's no way.
It's funny you asked that question, Jay, because the person I'm talking about asked Gary that. Why do you care about me? Why are you out here recruiting me? You're a billionaire. And his answer, I just care about you and I want to see you win. And that's heart. That touches the heart.
Well, how come you weren't doing this 2 years ago?
I don't know, but I know that offer of being personally coached by Gary Keller, it worked for a while because it was the same pitch. My friends that came over from Keller, it was the same pitch he used to try to keep them there. And that was about 3 years ago. So the pitch really hasn't changed. I was just shocked that he's still having lunches, taking agents out to lunches and trying to get them, to come back to Keller. And that was just fascinating that he's still out there. So we will see. We will see, man.
Oh, one last point I think I would make.
Yeah.
So certainly this is a huge global footprint that they just adopted. That you can't deny. The big question is, do you have operations functionally as good as they could be in your core business in the US, and is now the right time to focus on global? And my perspective is, just again, being over here, us in 29 countries, every country creates a new problem. It ain't a cakewalk being international. So not having to ground and pound that is probably a huge advantage. But if you shift your focus to that, who pays the price? Your main core business, which is US based agents, is the that would be another threat. You either got to make sure these RE/MAX brokers and agents are happy, and you got to make sure all this global business is happy. Meanwhile, over here, who struggles? The ones that got you here in the first place. That's the, if I was playing, if I just say what if I was gonna pitch against it, that's what I would have to say. I hope they win, man. Dude, everybody can win.
I have to imagine
most fun I've ever had in my life.
I have to imagine that because we know what our numbers look like with, if you combine US and Canada and the income and profit that comes in to EXP, international versus all the other 27 countries, it's not even close. Even EXP, even though we're in 29 countries, the bulk of income, profitability, everything driven is here at the US and Canada, not in those 27 other countries that were out there. And so I have to believe that there's probably a correlation with the RE/MAX brand as well. They're not printing money on their international, I imagine. Could be wrong. I don't think that their international is just this cash cow that they're making it out to be. As the number goes up, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a better thing. It actually could be losing money.
Yeah, that's true too.
So it's
it seems like in the RE/MAX model, that's where the growth has been happening for them, because they've been losing agents. I mean, they had 145,000 agents or 100 some thousand agents.
Yeah, 140. Yeah, that's total worldwide. Yeah, and I think it's 48,000 they're down to in the US.
That tells me that they're doing something right international.
Well, that would include Canada, though. I think when they're talking about that 48,000 number out of the 140, what's left is a lot of them are in Canada. RE/MAX's brand is big in Canada. It's like RE/MAX and Rolla Page. So that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, because they still have a lot of, I'd say, market share and brand awareness, more so in Canada than they have, I think, in the US, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we will see. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are with any of these brands and you're not seeing that this move is going to benefit you financially in one way or another, come join us and we'll show you what we're doing. Just go to jetfuelleadslive.com. Excuse me, jetfuelleads.com/live and join Jay Kinder, where he talks about how we're putting 2 to 3 sales per month in our agents' closing pipeline with the system that we've built and we've been using. And
you know what, the sad thing is, this was another week where a bunch of nothing burger got delivered for us to talk about, and we didn't get to talk about what we're using AI to do. If they saw what we're just over here trying to help people sell more real estate all day, every day, and we're using AI to do it, and we want to help you. So if you want some help on selling more real estate, that's all we try to do. This comes up today, and we're like, all right, well, I guess we're going to talk about this thing that don't help nobody, but because that's what everybody wants to talk about. But meanwhile, y'all, AI is taking over the world, and if you're not using it to get more customers, get on this call, because we will blow your mind with what we're doing. Absolutely no, that's not an exaggeration. Fascinating time we live in.
Yeah.
So yeah, love it.
It costs you nothing. And the worst thing that can happen is you look and we're just going to open our playbook up and you can take it. Yeah. Especially you RE/MAX. If you're a RE/MAX broker open and you're a broker owner and you're in that other camp, the recruiting camp, because you're sitting on 3, 4, 5, 7 offices, and the only way you're going to be able to stay alive is to keep recruiting, you're going to want to be on this.
Yeah.
Because what are we up to? Jay, what are we up to? About 50 new applications per week.
Yeah.
On average. Sometimes it's higher than that.
Yeah.
And if your RE/MAX office isn't taking on 50 agents a week, come and take a peek at what we're doing.
Yeah. Pretty good stuff, y'all. Pretty good stuff.
Awesome. Well, as always, my friend, I'm going to see you in 2 days.
2 days. Yep.
2 days. I'll see you in beautiful Las Vegas, where we're going to remember our friend Jimmy Brooks. By the way, love to dedicate this episode to our good friend Jimmy Brooks. We lost last week.
Yeah. And
we're going to go celebrate his life in Las Vegas with his wonderful family and some of our EXP colleagues.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see them and celebrate Jimmy.
Yeah.
We lost an amazing soul.
Great.
And absolutely. All right, brother.
All right, man.
With that, I will see you in 2 days.
Yep.
And we'll see all the rest of you at the top or on the webinar.
on Thursday. See ya.